With Dragonflight on the way and with the Evoker class coming out real soon, I thought I would share my opinions on the strengths and weaknesses of the class, more specifically Preservation Evoker. I've spent around 60 to 70 hours on the beta, testing on leveling, raiding environments and Mythic Plus, so I thought I was in a really good position to share my opinions. In this video we're going to be talking about the strengths, the weaknesses, how it's going to play out in Mythic Plus and how it's going to play out in Raid, and compared to other healers, how it's going to stack up on the tier lists. If you like what you see in this video and want to see more, my name is Ryfrost. I've played every single healer on the Dragonflight beta, and I feel like I'm in a really good position to sort of put them in tier lists and discuss them in length, and I'll be posting videos very soon about the class strengths and weaknesses of each class and how they're going to stack up in healing environments. And when Dragonflight launches, I'll be posting Mythic Raiding videos, Mythic Plus, and just general Dragonflight videos. So if you want to see more, please hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, comment down below. Do you think the Dracthyr Evokers are going to rise up to the hype, or do you think they're going to crash and burn? Let me know. But anyway, let's jump into the video. But before we talk about strengths and weaknesses, we need to talk about what kind of healer a Preservation Evoker is. Now, if I could summarize, I could put it down into basically three types of healers. So first of all, we are sort of like a proactive healer, a bit like a druid and a disc priest to an extent. We essentially prepare for the damage that hasn't happened yet and prepare our healing and our spells to cover the damage that's already happened so we can focus on something else. We are also like a holy priest or a holy paladin in the sense that we're a reactive healer, so we don't need to prepare our healing, we just heal as we go along. We see somebody low health, we heal them, that's it. And then the last one, we are an insane burst type of healer. With our new empowered spells, we essentially can put out insane heals per second and cover a lot of healing in a short period of time. Now, we're not going to talk about how the class plays because that is a separate video, and if it is out by now, it'll be in the cards above and the description down below because I will be covering a lot of how Preservation Evoker works. But anyway, let's jump into the video and talk about how the strengths and weaknesses impact the class, how it's going to play in Mythic Plus and Raiding. First of all, we're going to be talking about weaknesses. Now, there is a massive argument in the whole video and in the whole class discussion in regards to the range of the class, and we'll try and summarize it as best as we possibly can in this video. Now, it is a completely separate video to talk about that, but I thought I would include it here because it is a big topic of discussion. Now, when you first start playing the Evoker, you have to type advanced. Now, I know it sounds pretty weird to say advanced and type advanced in a video game, and I think Blizzard's reason for this is that Evokers play completely different to any other class that is already out there. Now, if we cast our minds back to Death Knights and Monks and Demon Hunters when they were first released, their playstyle was very similar to any other class, so people could just join the game, play the new class, and pick it up pretty easily. Yes, you'll have to learn rotations and things like that, but it was very similar to classes that already exist. With the Evokers, Blizzard have flipped that on its head. We have a completely new skill mechanic that no other class has got, we have a complete movement ability toolkit that we need to get our head around, and also we have abilities that we can fly across the map and back. Something that no other class has got that. So we have to utilize that in our toolkit and learn from it. And I think this is where the weakness comes from, because people are joining the game, playing the class, expecting to pick it up, and rightly so, like any other class that they've played for the last 16, 17 years. But it's not like that, and I think this is where a lot of the weakness discussion comes from about the range. So when I first started playing an Evoker, I did struggle with this rage thing as well, so I can understand where people are coming from. They are going to struggle with this 30-yard range. But as I've put in 40 to 50, up to 70 hours worth of gameplay, I've learned to use it as sort of an advantage. And I also use the toolkit to my advantage and its fullest. So whereas I have to put this as a weakness because it will upset a lot of people talking about this because they do see this as a weakness. But as I'm sure I did, as you play along and put a lot of hours into it, and if you are going to be in a Mythic Raiding environment, you're going to have to use this to your advantage. So the biggest thing and the biggest problem having a 30-yard range is that you are 10 yards of a disadvantage towards any other healers. That is true. However, you have a lot of mobility for you to be able to cast and move on the go. You also have an ability where you can fly quite a fair distance across the map and then teleport back after a certain amount of time, if you want to, or you can just stay there. Another massive healing ability that we have is something called Echo. Now, for those of you that don't know what Echo is you essentially put this on one player, you heal someone else, and it copies that heal onto the player that you've casted it. It is something that uses essence, and it is something very similar to what Holy Paladins have in Beacon of Light, but it is only a one-use thing, or for as many essences that you have at any one time. Now, a big issue that we've had, of course, in raid situations is you are in stacked groups. For example, you have one stack over here, you have one stack over there, you're in one group and the rest you can't reach, but other healers can. Now, something that I have been doing to prepare myself for that is that, let's say I'm in group stack A, they're in group stack B, and you have a player that you can reach that is running over to group stack B. What I've been doing is casting Echo on that player, waiting for them to get into the stack group, and then casting the AoE heal Emerald Blossom on my side, and what that will do is it will copy that AoE heal, bounce over to that player, then do an instant heal over there. Now, it isn't as effective as if you were stood right next to them casting all your heals in your arsenal, but for the sort of 5 to 10 seconds that you are stacked in the groups, it will be hugely beneficial to still heal on the go. And of course, you have your heal over times that you will have on as many people as you can, but that is something we've been using to sort of cover that issue that we have with the range. When it comes to Echo, we haven't even talked about the AoE healing, and once again, that's going to be my how to play Preservation Evoker video, which if it's already out as this video, or if you're watching this in the future, it'll be up there. But we have Reversion, Verdant Embrace, Empowered Dream Breath and Spirit Bloom. We have so much at our arsenal that ranged isn't a huge issue. But a slight mention for Verdant Embrace, or Verdant, depending on how you say it properly. And apologies if I'm saying it wrong. Verdant Embrace jumps to other people. So you can very much get yourself in a position where you're out of range of a group of people, and you can jump to somebody in between that needs healing, and then you're suddenly in range. Yes, it requires a lot of setup. Yes, it requires a lot of practice. But whereas once you'll see it as a weakness, you will see this as a strength. Another weakness, and I apologise for this in advance because this will probably upset a lot of people that want to play, and this might just be for beta situations and it might not affect us in live, because I have seen people's opinions change slightly. For example, Growl, one of the really popular healers, his healer tier list puts Evokers second. So as more and more people play and more people get practice, this might not be such an issue, but I feel like the damage has already been done, and that is not getting invited into groups. Now, I have had plenty of times over the weeks and months playing beta where I've signed up as a Preservation Evoker with a huge amount of eye level, 400 plus item level. Yes, I know it changes as a 392, but obviously numbers matter. And I've just not been getting invited. And now I think the issue of that is that the fact that when Evokers first came out, there was huge negativity around Preservation Evokers being such a weak healer. And I believe that is where some of the people have gone wrong, because, like I've said previously, people have jumped on the class, tried it out, not liked it because it's completely different to how everybody else is used to playing it, and just saying it's a bad class and moving on. And I feel like some YouTubers and some Twitch streamers have also said that. They've tried it out, think it sucks, but the ones that have stuck around, like Preheat and Growl, they've sort of learnt around it, and they're seeing that it is actually a really strong class and the meta is sort of changing. But what you might find and be prepared for, people already had that preconception that Evokers are such a weak class that they won't want to invite you. And it's people like me and the other people in the community and yourself, if you are going to play a Preservation Evoker, to prove them wrong. One final mention about range is I really wanted to talk about is the fact that if Blizzard did listen in an alternate universe and listen to everybody complaining and change our class to a 40-yard range class, I actually think it would probably do more damage than good. Now, I'll explain this by saying that Living Flame, one of our main healing abilities, is also Devastation Evoker's main damage abilities. And it has a travel time because it works very similar to a Frost Ball or a Chaos Ball and things like that. You cast it, it's got like a 1.5 second cast time, and then it travels like 1 second to get to the player or the enemy, and it heals or it damages them. Now, if I'm stacked up against another healer and 40-yard range, not only do I have to cast 1.5 seconds to get there, it's going to take an extra second to reach that player before it heals. Now, stack that up against a Holy Priest that can just cast Flash Heal or Heal with no travel time. If you look at the differences, by the time that my healers hit that player, it would already have been healed by another healer. So I'm going to be doing a lot of overhealing, and it won't reflect on my potential. And that will really damage Evokers more than it'll help. So I think that in the weaknesses, unfortunately, with the range, we just have to work with our potential, work with our mobility, and work around the strengths. Like I've said, many healers that have stuck around and played the class have really enjoyed it and think that it's going to be up there with the best. Now we're going to talk about strengths. Now, if you are still here, it might just be that you really enjoyed the video, or you are planning on maining a Preservation Evoker and you want to get past all the negative ideas and talk about the strengths and the positivity that the class brings. So thank you for stopping by, and let's jump into the strengths, shall we? But first and foremost, we have Insane Burst, but also that burst can be changed into Insane Heal over time. So our Dream Breath, for example, like I said before, the empowered spell can be used first cast really quick with a small heal and a longer heal over time, and that's our first empowered skill, or it can be held up to empowered 4 for a higher instant cast with a lower heal over time. So this is where I was talking about the proactivity and the reactivity of our healing class. Now with our heal over times and our temporal anomaly in raid situations, we can essentially heal 4 or 5 people with a click of a few buttons. Now for example, we can use our essences on 3 or 4 people, and then we can also use temporal anomaly that will put echo on another bunch of people, and you can essentially be in a scenario where you've got heal over times on 10 plus players. Now that is insane when you think about it. It's like a wild growth on steroids. We're going to be casting Living Flame as much as we possibly can. We're going to be casting Reversion as much as we possibly can, and we're also going to be casting our Flame Breath as much as we can because that links with Living Flame. So I think our strength as well in both Mythic Plus and our raiding situation is that we are essentially a damage class and a healer class mixed into one. Are going to be very, very ideal in Mythic Plus and sometimes in raid situations because we have the damage to benefit our healing. Now, there are some other healing classes like that, but I don't believe it's as good as what we have. Now, let me explain. So, for example, first of all, we have, if spec'd right, our main ability, Essence Use and Disintegrate, can give us mana back as we're attacking it. I've not seen any other healer class that can do that, but we can essentially get unlimited mana by using our essences to use Disintegrate and then getting our mana back. Another thing we have is something called Fire Breath, our empowered DPS ability, that when procced also gives, when Living Flame is cast, it to hit other players or other enemies. And it can do that with Echo as well, so it can bounce to other players and you can hit loads of other people with your healing. Now you can't do that unless you DPS, so in Mythic Plus situations, when in higher keys, you're going to need to be DPSing as much as you possibly can, and with Evokers, we are in there with our healing abilities. Something also we need to do, if we need to move very quickly to a different position, we can Deep Breath, which can be lined up to hit people on the go and damage them and sometimes stun as well. We have so much potential for damage and for healing. So to break it down, we are essentially a single target, raid AoE healing, heal over time, and burst healer all mixed into one. We are incredibly strong, and I think we're going to really stack up really well with other healers, and we're going to be in the top probably 3 healers for both Mythic Plus and raiding. The other strength that we have is we have probably the most mobility of any class, and we can increase that with talents and our raid-wide buff as well. Now our raid-wide buff reduces our movement ability cooldown by 15%. Our other raid-wide ability also allows us to use one more movement ability cooldown with no cost. So we can essentially have hover almost all the time and we can move as we go. Other than empowered spells, we can essentially move everywhere and heal everywhere. So in a Mythic Plus situation, for more specifically, when we are chain pulling, we don't need to stop to heal. We can move and heal, which is going to really benefit us when you're really pushing those high keys to try and get those best times. Now, something that I think is a huge benefit that no other class has is Rescue. Now, that is a weakness as well if it's not fixed, but it is an incredible strength if used correctly. Now, let's say in a raid scenario, you have a tank with very low mobility, such as a Death Knight, and that tank needs to become the off tank and move over to a place where a ad spawns, or needs to get to an end. Imagine Painsmith, where they need to get to an end and have a raid ability so it doesn't affect the DPS and healers. Sometimes they can't get there. However, with an Evoker, we can just pick them up and move them to the place they need to be very easily. So it's going to really benefit us in raiding situations where we need to move people to places they need to be and sometimes can't get there in time. And then, of course, the amount of DPS hunters, I'm looking at you, that just stand still and don't move and just die from things, we can pick them up and put them in the right place. And I think that's incredibly well designed. There are certain situations where we need to stack all of us, let's say for example Skolex on Sepulchre, where we all need to stack to bait the boss mechanics so we can move around on Mythic. Sometimes people haven't stacked. Now I can just grab that player and bring them to our stacked group and everything's all well. We have incredible mobility, and when it's used right and built into our healing, we are going to be a force to be reckoned with. Now, there is a massive discussion to talk about the rotation of a Evoker and how when stacked right with Stasis, Temporal Anomaly, Dream Breath and Verdant Embrace, all connected can be an incredible healing tool, but that is for a separate video and it's going to be up there when it's ready on how to use a Preservation Evoker to its fullest potential. And there's so much more to talk about with an Evoker on how the strengths and weaknesses, but in my mind, the weaknesses that I've listed in this video, I would probably put them as a strength more than a hindrance. But as you probably wanted to test how the Evoker works and come to this channel to sort of see what it's all about. Yes, if you have stuck to the end of this video and you've stuck by, thank you for stopping by, thank you for watching to the end, and I really appreciate everything that you've done in the sense of the algorithm and watching this whole video, and hopefully it's been of interest to you. So write in the comment section down below, are you planning on maining a Preservation Evoker? Has this video helped in any way? And also, if you want to learn more, please look at the channel, because by this video or in the future, hello from the future, you're probably going to be wanting to see more about Preservation Evokers, and it will be in the description in a separate playlist and in the cards on how to play a Preservation Evoker. But until then, thank you for stopping by. My name is Ryfrost. I've thrown a lot of information at you today, and we're going to leave this video there. So please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks very much. Bye bye.